I grew up in a small town in northeast Arkansas, and I have an amazing mom and dad who at a very early age planted a seed and really instilled in me a root system and a foundation for a faith in who Jesus Christ is. And I know without a shadow of a doubt, had it not been for my mom and dad and just the people in my community praying for me, I wouldn't have a chance. I wouldn't be here today. So I do want to say a special thank you to all the moms and dads out there that are praying for their kids. And God hears those prayers. They don't go unnoticed. Growing up though in this small town, I never had an interest in playing music. I didn't dream of playing guitar or singing. What I wanted to be was a professional basketball player. And before you say anything, I'm a lot taller than I look on stage. I get it every time I meet somebody. Like, man, you're a lot taller than you look up on stage. So I thought I could have been a pro basketball player. I found out real quick I wasn't good enough. Long story short, though, I got involved in drugs and alcohol somewhere around 10th, 11th grade. And everything that I'd grown up on and everything that my parents had taught me kind of fell to the wayside. And I thought I could make some decisions and live my life on my own. But what I found out is I couldn't do it on my own. And my senior year of high school, I lost a Division I scholarship to play college basketball. I dropped out of high school. I got a GED and I started working for my dad's construction company. And at 17 years old, that's a pretty tough pill to swallow when you can't put the blame on anybody but yourself. Somehow though, God was still looking out for me, and a year later I walked onto a junior college and I made the basketball team and got a full scholarship. Unfortunately, the day before my first freshman season game started, we were goofing off in practice one day, walking through some plays, and I stepped on a guy's foot and tore 5 ligaments in my ankle and redshirted my freshman season, and I kind of fell out of love with basketball. But one thing I fell in love with was music. I remember picking up my roommate's guitar in my freshman year, and I taught myself how to play a few chords and quickly fell in love with the idea that I could just share a story or a season of life that I was going through and put that to music. And for the next 10 years of my life, I carried a guitar with me everywhere I went. The downside to that was I thought I was going to be a rock star, and I thought drugs and alcohol was something I could justify with what I was going to be doing. And for the next 13 years of my life, I lived pretty recklessly from one day to the next, not really knowing what was going to happen. I married my wife when I was 29 years old. And she had 2 small kids when we met, and I had no business at the time being anybody's daddy. But I did have a really good father of my own at home, and I had a great father in heaven. And after a few years of trying to live the party life and the rock and roll life, I remember me and my wife had kind of came to this moment where we thought we were going to get a divorce. I thought I was going to lose my family, and I remember I was leaving to go on a tour for a month in Europe. And I remember having this kind of come to Jesus moment with God where I was like, you know, God, I know you're real. I've grown up knowing about you my entire life. I know who you are. And I had all these stories and all these memories in my head of who Jesus was, but I didn't have anything in my heart that represented that I had a walk with him or that I was a Christian. And I remember kind of making this deal with him that if he would prove it to me, I was done with everything. And so I left for Europe in 2012. And a week into that tour, I was in Spain. And our bus driver was scanning radio stations, and Redeemed by Big Daddy Weave came across the station. Pretty crazy, huh? And I remember that being a turning point for me. I remember listening to that song over and over in my hotel room that night, and it spoke to me in a way that I never heard a lyric to any song ever really reach out and grab me. And I called my wife and I said, I'm coming home from this tour, I'm quitting my band, canceling my shows, we're going to start going to church. A year later, I was working at a church, helping them launch a campus. 2 years later, I was on my way to Nashville to write some music. 2 years later, I wrote a song for Big Daddy Weave called Alive, and I went on tour with those guys. And so I'm just here to tell you guys, if you think God can't use somebody that's broken and messed up, and I'm living proof of that. So I want to play you guys a song tonight. It's just